What's up, guys? It's Josh here, back with another Kansas City Chiefs related video. And today is going to be a little bit of a different kind of video. Like I've said in a couple of my previous videos, there's not a whole lot going on right now. It's the off season, so of course, what do we have to talk about? Controversial tweets from former players of the Chiefs. Today, we're going to be looking at this Le'Veon Bell tweet that's kind of gone viral a little bit. A lot of people are talking about it. Honestly, I'm probably making this video kind of late to the topic. But if you guys didn't see it, Le'Veon Bell took to Instagram to voice his frustration with his, last season here with Kansas City and about how he's never going to play for Andy Reid again, or he never wants to. He said he'd rather retire. Here's the exact quote, along with the context. So there was some random Instagram post from a rather popular page, and what happened was someone replied to Le'Veon Bell, and they said, "Did the Chiefs re-sign you? Because if so, let's try to bring one home this time." And then Le'Veon Bell responded by saying, "I'll never play for Andy Reid again. I'd retire first." So that's pretty harsh. I mean, it's one thing to be disgruntled after, what was probably an underwhelming time for you in Kansas City, but to go out of your way to crush Andy Reid like that, I was a little surprised. But of course, I'm going to give my thoughts on it all. Before saying anything, I do want to say that I think Bell's comments about Andy Reid were out of line. To go at Andy Reid like that, who's had a lot of success. I've been frustrated with Andy too, and I think Bell has a right to be frustrated here, and I'll get into that in a minute. But to attack a coach like Andy Reid, who has been successful and, draws rave reviews from basically every other player that he's coached, even other players that are considered divas and hotheads like Terrell Owens and guys like that over the years, even they love Andy Reid. Like, there's not a lot of guys out there that you'll find that don't want to play for Andy Reid and the Chiefs. So Le'Veon Bell's comments are, like I said, they're a little harsh. I was caught a little bit off guard when I saw this floating around Twitter late last night. Quite honestly, I think Le'Veon Bell should not have went that far. But like I said, I think he has reason to be frustrated, and I'll get into that right now. So a lot of subscribers to my channel, you guys already know that I'm not afraid to give the fans and the fans of my own channel a little bit of pushback when it comes to opinions about different players and stuff, and it's no different here with Le'Veon Bell. One thing that I've noticed that Chiefs fans like to do, and it's not really just Chiefs fans, this goes for a lot of fans, it's just nature to defend your organization that you're a fan of, right? Well, I've noticed that Chiefs fans, a lot of the times when there is a former player or heck, even a current player that has the slightest bad thing to say about the Chiefs or the Chiefs organization, fans like to downplay the effectiveness that player had on the team, and just like, look, I'll say it again, it's just nature to come to your team's defense. Like a recent example is Steven Nelson, right? Like, a lot of Chiefs fans hate Steven Nelson because of the way he acted on the way out and went at the fan base and the team and stuff like that. And, a lot of the, backlash that Steven Nelson got was justified. I mean, he said some stuff that it's like, dude, you're making it worse for yourself. However, Steven Nelson isn't a bad player, not in my opinion. He wasn't a fit with the Chiefs back in that last year, 2018. Nelson was still fairly productive. Just the problem was Bob Sutton continued to put him in man coverage against some of the team's, better corners in matchups. And that's just not Steven Nelson's thing. He's a good zone cornerback. And we saw that in Pittsburgh. That's why he was able to be successful in Pittsburgh. But that's way besides the point. So my point is that Chiefs fans, they like to, just totally downplay the contributions that a player makes as soon as they have something bad to say. And it's no different here with Le'Veon Bell. I'm starting to see a lot of people now try to take away from what Le'Veon Bell brought to the team and say he was trash, he was washed up. I didn't see that. In fact, I was pretty impressed by Bell in his limited touches, and I thought he didn't get the ball enough, and that's why I understand his frustration. I made a video about a month back now asking the question, should the Chiefs bring back Le'Veon Bell? And I thought, the Chiefs owed Le'Veon Bell the opportunity to run behind this revamped offensive line. Because, Bell is someone that can thrive behind a good offensive line, like most running backs, and he's someone that can become increasingly effective if you continue to feed him the ball. And the Chiefs just never committed to feeding him the ball, despite him being pretty efficient, like I said, with his touches. And now a lot of people are seeming to forget this. So I actually wrote an article way back at the beginning of the offseason about how the Chiefs probably won't bring back Le'Veon Bell, but why I thought that was kind of a mistake. So I'm going to read a few paragraphs straight from my article because it has once again become relevant. So let me read you what I wrote. A lot of this in here is comparing Le'Veon Bell to CEH. CEH is someone that a lot of Chiefs fans love. And look, I think CEH is going to have a pretty big year next season. However, I'll just let you listen to what I wrote. Let's start with point number one being that it's not Bell's fault that the Chiefs' offensive line didn't support Bell's running style. It's fair to say that a fully healthy Chiefs' offensive line would have helped Le'Veon Bell, but when you factor in Kalichi Osemele, Mitchell Schwartz, etc., and how they all slowly went down, that's not Bell's fault. Despite these issues here, there were multiple games in which Bell was still useful, and which we'll get into in a little bit, and even outperformed Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Yet there seemed to be a lot of CEH apologists due to the offensive line run blocking, or lack thereof. However, we as fans seem to ignore this when it comes to Le'Veon Bell. The Chiefs' offensive line ranked last in the NFL in run block win rate, which is tough for any running back, let alone a runner like Bell. Le'Veon Bell was still effective in plenty of games for the Chiefs in 2020, but a big reason why he never seemed to pop off the screen to fans was because the Chiefs always went away from Bell, even though he'd have a really nice play or two that would get the offense going. As great of a coach as Andy Reid is, this has been a bad habit of his over the years. He tends to go away from what was working, which can be very frustrating, and he tends to abandon the run. Anyways, let's look at some of Bell's stats that support this theory. One of Bell's big abilities that was talked about as justification for the Chiefs signing him was his receiving ability. Bell had been one of the league's best receiving backs for years, and it was evident that he still had that ability. However, the Chiefs didn't take advantage. Bell never even had more than 3 receptions in a game this year, and didn't get the opportunity he should have, as he averaged 9.6 yards per reception as a Chief in 2020, which was the best of any back on the roster. For example, in the Jets game, Bell's second game in action, he had 3 receptions for 31 yards, which all came on just 3 targets. The Chiefs won that game handily, though, so you could say that is a factor. How about week 11 in the Raiders game? Bell had 1 reception that went for 11 yards in the first half, and then he was never targeted again the entire game. In week 15 against New Orleans, Bell had 1 catch for 14 yards and then nothing after that. Yes, the Chiefs still won all those games, but that would be missing the point. We aren't trying to say the Chiefs were wrong in their decision necessarily, but it's simply disproving the notion that Bell wasn't productive. Bell earned the opportunity to be featured in the pass game more. A quick overview of Bell's rushing stats as well indicates he was more productive than fans will give him credit for. Over the span of 7 games, from the first Denver game to the New Orleans game, Le'Veon Bell had a higher yards per carry than Clyde Edwards-Helaire in 4 of those games. Bell also averaged just over 4 yards per carry as a Chief over the course of the season, which is not great, but solid all things considered. Similar to the point of Bell not getting a fair share of the targets, he also didn't get enough carries to truly showcase his abilities. For example, in the Miami game, Bell had 2 carries for 21 yards in the first half, which is 10.5 yards per carry, and once again, he never got any opportunities after that. Bell also had 6 carries for 39 yards in his first game with the Chiefs. 6.5 yards per carry in his first 15-plus yard run in 2 years, clearly showing he still had something left in the tank. This is an offense where a running back like Bell needs a good 7 to 10 carries at the very least in order to get going, but the Chiefs just never really committed to trying that. Bell only got more than 7 carries twice in Kansas City. In both those games in which he did get 7 carries, he had over 60 yards from scrimmage. The biggest reason why Chiefs fans will have a bad memory of Bell is because he was a no-show in the postseason. This is unfair to Bell because, remember, he had a knee injury in Week 15 against Atlanta, which bothered him all the way up until the Super Bowl, where he was finally activated. Bell was active for the Super Bowl and did not actually play, which didn't bode well for his outlook of staying in KC or being remembered fondly. While it's a safe take to always trust the coaching staff's decision, this was malpractice by Reid and the staff. Earlier in the season against Tampa Bay, Bell had one of his most effective games as he consistently made something out of nothing against the league's #1 rush defense, and he had 32 yards from scrimmage while also being instrumental in helping to pass block for Patrick Mahomes. Bell was right up there with Darrell Williams as the best pass blocking back on the roster. The fact that he didn't even get a chance to play in the Super Bowl was a mistake, given the Buccaneers' base defense was daring the Chiefs to run the ball. And watching Darrell Williams drop that pass after Mahomes was parallel to the ground was infuriating, knowing Le'Veon Bell, with his receiving skills, would not have dropped that ball. So that was all from my article. As you heard, that's why I totally understand Le'Veon Bell's frustration. I really do. And it's weird because I've tweeted a lot of these tidbits and like quotes from my article and stuff over the past 24 hours or so on Twitter, as this Bell stuff has kind of gone a little bit viral. And I'll still have fans that say stuff like, oh, CEH is way better, or Bell is still washed, or why are you defending Le'Veon Bell? I'm just giving you the plain statistics right here. The fact of the matter is that in 7 games in which both Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Le'Veon Bell were both active, Le'Veon Bell had 4 of those 7 games in which he had more yards per carry than Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So to sit there and say something like Clyde Edwards-Helaire was quote-unquote way better than Le'Veon Bell, which I got a response on Twitter yesterday saying that, it's just not true. It's not. Le'Veon Bell was still effective for this team. He just didn't get the ball all that much, and the Chiefs aren't a run-heavy team to begin with. Now, some of this could also still be put on Bell because Bell had to know some of these things when he signed with Kansas City. Andy Reid is known to have some bad habits like that, like abandoning the run and that type of thing. And look, I mean, he knew he wasn't going to be the bell cow. He knew that a lot of this was a possibility, or he should have known at the very least. So that's also where you could, that's something you could point to and be like, look, Bell, you can't be, mad and go at Andy Reid after acknowledging that, right? So overall, the whole Andy Reid comment was just unnecessary. It was uncalled for. Like, that's not something you come out and say publicly. And that's the reason why a lot of fans are going to be pissed at Bell. And look, I don't really blame the fans for being pissed at Bell. However, the point of me making this video really is just to shed light a little bit on why Le'Veon Bell is frustrated. Because look, I get some of his frustration. I see a lot of Chiefs fans now are trying to downplay Le'Veon Bell and his abilities now, and I just don't agree with it. Like, you can look at it from both sides, Chiefs fans, trust me. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I got. I just wanted to make a quick video talking about this because it kind of ruffled my feathers a little bit. But all that being said, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Did what I had to say surprise you? What do you think? Do you agree, disagree? Let me know. All that being said, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Chiefs fans can find this video. And make sure you check out my work on kckingdom.com and showmefootball.com. That's all I got for today. Peace.